Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Green, and today we're going to be reviewing Entity 020. This entity is written in a format that is a spin-off of the SCP Foundation called the Nova Corporation. More information will be found in the description below. Without further ado, let's begin. Entity 020. Threat level Orange. Entity code name Bottle Tinnitus. Storage details. Entity 020 is contained in a containment cell twice the size of the usual standard containment cells within Research Area 11. The containment cell has lines on the floor of the colors green, yellow, orange, red, and black, which represents the distances of effects. See entity description. The following has been stricken from the document. Due to E-020's properties, 020 is not to be guarded by security, and entrance to its observation chamber is only authorized during testing. All tools used to study the inside of 020 are to be incinerated after use. 020 can be accessed by members of the Innovation Department, ranked Novus and above. The stricken section of the document has been replaced with the following. 020 is to be guarded by no less than one security officer holding a clearance of at least level B. Security personnel are not to enter the chamber, terminating personnel at the edge of the door if absolutely required. Any test that may involve the required retrieval of a test subject in the red zone via robotic means requires supervision from an advanced innovator or above. 020 can be accessed by members of the Innovation Department, ranked Innovator or above. Novices, even with supervision, are not authorized to test on E-020. Entity description. Entity 020 is a jumbo-sized unlabeled glass jar with various items and substances within it. Some substances and items within 020 include human blood and a perfectly preserved human ear, identified to be from the world-renowned scientist, a mixture of salt, water, sugar, food dyes of various colors such as green, red, yellow, and blue, and an unidentified mixture that appears to be responsible for the effects of E-020, as well as the preservation of the ear and blood. E-020's properties do not manifest unless one biological being is within the same room as E-020. It should be noted that the size of the room does not matter, as E-020's effects will automatically adjust to only affect the room. If E-020 is put outside, its effects vanish for as long as the item remains outside, allowing this to be a likely way to neutralize 020 indefinitely. When a biological object enters E-020's containment chamber, its properties manifest, with intensity depending on the percentage of the distance from E-020 to the room's walls based on the floor's surface area. As an example, the first 25% of the travel is when you are 25% of the way, when 0% of is the room's wall, and 100% is touching E-020. Below is a detailed documentation on the effects of E-020 depending on the radius. The following is organized in the following way. Distance, then line color, then effects. Distance, 0 to 25%. Line color, green. Effects. Effects of E-020 similar to tinnitus, including ringing in the ears, lightheadedness, the sound of heartbeats, and more various effects. Exiting E-020's chamber removes such effects. Distance, 26 to 40%. Line color, yellow. Effects. Effects of E-020 include the above, but also include unrelated effects such as severe paranoia, major depressive disorder, anxiety, and claustrophobia. No matter the room size, the subject will report it is too small and will begin to panic. During this phase, permanent ear damage begins to affect the subject. In some cases, the subject expresses a strong desire to approach E-020 instead of leaving. Exiting the chamber removes all effects, minus the permanent ear damage. Distance, 41 to 65%. Line color, orange. Effects. Effects of 020 appear to copy the 26 to 40% mark, but now with ear damage increasing rapidly. Blood is slowly released from the ears on multiple occasions while within this distance. All effects will remain on the subject, though the psychological damage can be slowly removed via therapy. However, the subject has a mild desire to return to E-020's containment at all times. Distance, 66 to 80%. Line color, red. Effects. Arteries and veins within the brain begin to burst. The brain suffers multiple blood clots, resulting in rapid brain death in minutes. All subjects in this stage appear to no longer respond to commands and instead move toward 020 sluggishly. If a subject is dragged out of the chamber before death, they will enter a comatose state indefinitely. Line color, 81 to 100%. Black. The subject suffers the same effects as the 66 to 80% mark, but now affecting the whole body instead of just the brain and ears. For as long as the subject can speak, they begin to scream an unknown language and appear to desire to touch E-020. Even if a subject is dragged out of containment chamber at this distance, they will be unable to be treated. Due to these effects, any exploration into the contents of E-020 must be conducted by remote-controlled robots and drones. Test log E-020-29. Personnel: Dr. Green, Class C. Security Officer Brown, Class B. Test subjects: Test Subject Joe, designated TS-1. Dr. Green. This is Dr. Green. Authorization code Hotel Echo Lima Papa 6570. Beginning test E-020-29, escorted by Security Officer Brown, and testing E-020. Dr. Green turns to the test subject. Alright, you will be designated TS-1. The test subject remains quiet, briefly turning his head towards the containment chamber window before looking back at the doctor. Dr. Green. This test will be simple. I want you to approach E-020 and attempt to pass the red line on the floor. Then, await further instructions. Do not cross the black unless I say so. Do you understand? The test subject turns his head towards the entity, not looking away before speaking. TS-1. What? What is that thing? Officer Brown jumps in before Mr. Green has a chance to speak. He asked you a question. He didn't say for you to ask him one. Now, do you understand what he said? Dr. Green recoils at Officer Brown's loud voice, but says nothing. Test Subject 1. I'm sorry. I understand. Go in and cross the red line, just like the briefing from earlier. Officer Brown walked towards the door controls, and opens it, saying nothing. Dr. Green. Please, enter the chamber. TS-1 slowly walks to the chamber, Officer Brown slamming the door behind him afterwards. TS-1 then looks at the object before looking at the observation window. TS-1. I hear ringing. Is that normal? Dr. Green. Yes. Please proceed. TS-1 walks towards the yellow line, stopping before it. TS-1 looks up towards E-020 before speaking. Doc, is this safe? Dr. Green shakes his head slowly, not noticed by the test subject, who is still fixated on E-020. Yes, please continue. TS-1 crosses the yellow line slowly, almost as if expecting something. When nothing visually happens, TS-1 continues. TS-1. Doc, I don't really feel that great. TS-1 continues walking. despite this message. Dr. Green ignores the message, or did not hear it at this time. TS-1 says nothing else until he stops in front of the orange line. TS-1. Doc, well, why is this room so small? Why don't I feel good? I'm scared. Dr. Green looks through the window with sadness in his eyes. Officer Brown says nothing, seemingly unfazed by the events ongoing. Dr. Green, it's not small. You'll be fine. Please, continue. TS-1 crosses the orange line and continues walking. TS-1. You know, Doc, maybe this isn't so bad after all. Dr. Green responds, seemingly confused. What do you mean? TS-1 continues walking, seemingly walking slightly quicker. Blood is seen dripping from the left ear. He wants us. Don't you see it? Doctor. It's his ear. It's his blood. It's his life. He is ours. We are his. Dr. Green flips through his notebook quickly, noticing that TS-1 was never told of the origins of the contents beforehand. Dr. Green. How? Before Dr. Green can finish his sentence, TS-1 runs towards E-020 rapidly, screaming, He wants us, you know! TS-1 stops as soon as his foot crosses the red line. After 8 seconds of silence, TS-1 begins to walk towards E-020, bleeding from the ears rapidly. Dr. Green. TS-1. Can you hear me? TS-1 continues, not responding. Officer Brown. Authorization to terminate? Dr. Green. No. Threaten him to return, or you will shoot, but do not fire. We need to know how he knows what he knows. I'll call for support. Dr. Green pulls out his radio and requests for TC arrival, as well as the automated robot used to study E-020, which will drag TS-1 out of the red zone. While this occurs, Officer Brown enters the chamber and walks to the edge of the yellow line, meaning he is still within the green zone. Hey, halt! I have orders that can terminate you unless you return to the green zone now. TS-1 stops moving and turns around, exactly 1 step in front of the black line. Dr. Green. Don't let him cross. Shoot his legs! Officer Brown attempts to fire, but his gun jams by unknown means. TS-1 turns back around and begins to make a move, assumingly towards E-020. Officer Brown, for an unknown reason, crosses the yellow line and makes a dash towards him before stopping in the orange zone and facing the containment chamber window. Hey, how did you... Wait, you can't be, You can't be. I didn't. I didn't. You know I didn't. Officer Brown fires the somehow unjammed gun at the window, shattering it. Due to this, the room boundary now includes the observation room, pushing TS-1 and Officer Brown into the black zone, and Dr. Green into the yellow zone. Officer Brown and TS-1 die instantly. Dr. Green. Oh! Dr. Green flees the containment chamber, locking it down behind him. End log. Dr. Green, after this, reported to the medical ward for evaluation and treatment. After 3 days, it was deemed that Dr. Green had not suffered any major effects and was allowed to return to duty. E-020 recontained via robot locking E-020 in a small box until repairs on the chamber were complete. Containment procedures updated. Notice from Class X Overwatch. This situation got out of control. Until we can discover what happened here, I want E-020 reclassified as orange. Notice approved. Documentation updated. End document. Alright guys, that was Entity E-020. Yes, my ears hurt after that one. And I hope you enjoyed. Class dismissed.